All right, well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to open the meeting and acknowledge the traditional owners and pay respects to elders past and present of the land on which the meeting is being held. Next item on the agenda is declaration of due consideration. All panel members have duly considered the documentation contained in Part B of the agenda. Please raise your hand to confirm that. Thank you. Okay. Next item is disclosure of interest. I don't have any. Next item is the application for a service station, motor vehicle wash and food outlet at number 11, Greenwich Parade, Neeraba. We have a presentation this morning, so I would like to ask the presenters, Mr. Tim Scarrett, firstly, to make your presentation. Tim, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to speak here?
You can just speak.
Okay, you can hear me. I'm a bit deaf, so if anyone wants to talk to me, please kick me first.
Okay.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Proudly Australian, I'm grateful to have this freedom to represent my small part here, or my relative area. This is to support my, can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
This is to support my submission from a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. Similar points I'm going to bring up, slightly extended. We already have one Vibe service station, 200 metres from the location that this new one is planned. It's been there, rapidly built with great speed, and now belching diesel fumes from a generator since Christmas Eve because of problems with Western Power, I'm told. Various stories, fibs, I believe, and just put off complaints. Not a solar panel in sight, which one would seem to, in this day and age, seem to be a sensible addition during the building phase. Requests to bund, protect us. I live on the southern side of Flynn Drive, have done for 35 years. Protect us from the sound and smell of this wretched generator. Only invites lies and promises, and has done since Christmas Eve, the day before Christmas Eve. I ask a question initially: are our regulators, auditors from whatever department we're with here today, aware of this? I brought it to many people's attention. I'm unaware of any action being taken. This morning the thing was belching, and where is any action for that? It's just an indication of what's happening at that service station. It's been there since it was completed, yes, in about September, as I say, hurriedly done. And I asked that question: who is auditing? Who is going to make some decisions about the wretched pollution it imposes on us? Why do we need this, I ask? Maybe 10, 15 years, a second garage there. We have, within a 2-3 kilometre radius, an abundant supply of 24-hour garages. I'm not against development. We know we moved up to our block and built bit by bit 30, 35 years ago. I approached the Shire regularly to find out what was going to happen around there. And I'm quite happy with progress and the need for everything to happen. It's strange how it's happened, how the bush was destroyed many years before anything was done there, but it's all happening. That's fine, but it doesn't need to happen overnight. And as I say, the supply of 24-hour garages, which cause a lot of noise. This one that's across the road from us isn't open 24 hours yet. It's due to, I think, but it's open about 17 or 18 hours a day. There is a lot of noise from there, and that together with the diesel makes me question why we have to have it. Underabundant supply. May I also urge for consideration to be implemented if this goes ahead, and obviously I'm the only one here from apathy prevails in all these areas, but if this is to go ahead in a bulldozer-like fashion rapidly, I presume, because there's money up front and it's going to make more money, then a buffer zone arrangement on the south side of Flynn Drive, previously discussed and I agreed with as sensible by the Wanneroo Shire. I presume someone here is from Wanneroo. Can we please, I have been inquiring about what development is taking place on that. The build-up of the current bush that's in place there to act as an absorber of noise from the road and the businesses, in particular on this occasion, the garage. Adequate soil material is available from the quarry over the road and from all the works going on over there. As I say, the Wanneroo Shire was in agreement at a meeting some time ago about developing this and contouring it in a sensible fashion to build up the verge and reduce the risk of concrete ghetto walls, which are becoming too familiar around our beautiful city and state, visible all over our lovely city. This will at least help to protect our animals, the people, and the lifestyle they chose 40 or 50 years ago in some cases. Please, thanks for the chance to represent a resident's perspective. Please, someone listen to it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tim. Panel members, do you have any questions of Scarlett, please? No? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Scarlett, for your presentation.
Thank you.
We may come back to you.
Someone will.
If there's any further questions that
Okay.
crop up.
Well, listen or go.
Thanks, panel members. Do any of you have questions of the council staff regarding the application? If not, yes, thought I'd get this one. Okay. All right, if not, then Councillor Smith, yes, sorry.
Thank you. I just wondered if the city wanted to respond to the residents' question about that buffer and then set some that there's previously his word.
Greg, could you comment on the Bund situation? I think that was what was alluded to.
Sorry, didn't quite catch that. Which situation?
Bund?
Oh, no, sorry. That's part of the upgrading and construction and duplication of Flynn Drive, which has been converted to a 4-lane major east-west connector, which will eventually be a main roads controlled road. So the noise management processes are in, there's noise management requirements as part of a major highway upgrade under SPP 5.4, road and rail noise. That's outside of the scope of our assessment for this development application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Another comment?
Thank you. No, we'll just take that on board. Thanks. Okay, no further questions. Tracy Klanowski, would you like to make your presentation, please? You have 5 minutes.
To all the members of the panel, thank you for the opportunity to present reasons against the proposed service station, drive-through coffee and convenience store at Greenwich Parade in the Neerabup industrial area. I actually also live in the Carramar community, like Tim Scarrett. Is the city administration recommending to the council to approve it? As noted in my submission, the West Australian Climate Change Policy, updated in February 2024, the state government outlines its goals to reduce emissions through clean energies and other mitigation strategies. Similarly, in the City of Wanneroo's Climate Change Adaptation and Mitigation Strategy 2020-21, 2025-26, the city outlines their main priority, which is taking initiative to prevent, i.e., contribute to actions that help delay, reduce, or avoid further climate change, which includes reducing carbon footprint and shifting away from fossil fuels. The city also clearly states that they should demonstrate through their actions that they are taking active steps to reduce its contribution of greenhouse gas emissions that are causing changes in climate. How is approving another service station within the Wanneroo industrial area facilitating a shift away from fossil fuels or transitioning to clean industries, actions listed as priorities by the city and the state government? What actions has the city implemented from its climate change adaptation and mitigation strategy that has led to a reduced carbon footprint across the city or demonstrating a shift away from fossil fuels? Are they enough to help reduce, delay, or avoid further climate change? The state government also outlined in their climate policy that they use climate science to ensure informed risk assessment and adaptation planning. Climate science demonstrates that fossil fuels are incompatible with action on climate change. While the city and the state government have identified the growing need to cut emissions, a business as usual approach to approve another service station would be happening at an environmental cost to the community, which contradicts both the city and the state government's commitment to reduce emissions. Finally, noise, light and rubbish pollution is likely to impact current residents in the adjoining semi-rural areas. While local employment is needed, how can this be done with less impact on the natural environment while moving away from fossil fuels? Thank you for listening, and I look forward to receiving the panel's response to my questions.
Thank you, Tracy. Panel members, any questions of Tracy? If not, thank you. We'll move on to the next presenter, Mr. Nick Hidding from Hidding Planning on behalf of the proponents. Nick.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member, and good morning, everyone. Hidding Urban Planning, acting for OTR 374, owners of the land at 11 Greenwich Parade in Wanneroo. The proposal before you today is a high-quality service station and motor vehicle wash development. Just one moment, I've just lost my feed. Prior to submitting this application, the applicant's team went through a formal process of engaging with the estate architect and received a stage 1 endorsement in respect of compliance with the Meridian Park Design Guidelines. I'll take this opportunity just to respond to a couple of comments from Mr. Scarrett, comments about another service station being in the area, the issue of the number of similar uses, need or supply, including competition, as this panel knows, is not a relevant planning consideration. The use is capable of approval in the industrial zone under the structure plan and is appropriately located. In terms of the buffer zone, as the city has outlined, this has been looked at separately with the upgrade of Flynn Drive. It is not in the scope of this application to provide. In relation to comments from Ms. Klonowski, the climate change strategy is a very broad brush strategy, which has very little bearing on the consideration of a development application. It's a strategy with a list of broad actions that the city intends to implement in different ways. The actions in the strategy relate to things like the environment, of course, temperature, extreme weather, sea level rise, water usage, construction methods, and the need to increase urban forests. The only relevant consideration for this application would probably be the energy efficiency for construction methods. And in response to that, the city asked us to provide a energy efficiency report, which is attachment 12 to the RA. In terms of sustainability, our client has already made the move to start providing EV charging stations, and this is responding to the increase in EV usage. And as that need continues, and when the standard fuel use decreases, the client will simply respond to that by replacing standard Bowsers with EV charging stations. But whilst there's an increase in EV charging, EV cars in a general sense in terms of EV car sales, the proportion of EV cars on the road at the moment is still very small. So there's still a need to provide standard fuel to the market. In relation to light pollution comments, the development is required to comply with Australian standards, as this panel knows. And there's also a condition of a development approval, condition 18, which talks to compliance with the Australian standards. In terms of noise, the development's been assessed for compliance with the noise regs. And there's a condition of approval, condition 19, which also enforces compliance with the report that's been prepared. Overall, the proposal has been thoroughly assessed by the city and all relevant issues have been considered. Throughout the assessment process, the applicant modified the design and provided additional information in response to public submissions and government referrals. And as a result, those issues have been addressed. There's a recommendation for approval in front of you today, which the applicant fully supports. I'd like to thank the city for its thorough assessment and recommendation. We accept all recommended conditions and hereby seek the panel to adopt that recommendation and to approve the development. Happy to ask any questions.
Thank you, Nick. Panel members, any have questions of Mr. Hidding? If not, I'll just ask, sorry, Tim.
Can I ask?
No, it doesn't work that way. The question of the generators on the alternative or on the other service station. I'm fully aware that there is a delay of up to 12 to 18 months for a lot of industries and land uses in the metropolitan area. There is a delay in power provision. Transformers are not available by Western Power. So there are several service stations that I'm aware of, and we've dealt with them in the past on this panel, where they have to provide a temporary diesel generator on site. I suppose for Mr. Scarrett's clarification, is power available to this site?
Look, I'm not aware. Look, we're going to have to go through the same application process with Western Power, particularly for the right power supply and power source.
Yeah.
If there's a need for a temporary solution, then we'll work with the city to come up with an appropriate location and solution for using that temporary solution.
Okay. Thank you. All right. No further questions of Mr. Hidding. Panel members, do you have any questions of Mr. Bowering regarding the issues raised to date? Yes, Jackie.
Just building on your point, presiding member, about the power connection, and it sounds like there's some issues with the existing service station. Is there an advice note or something that the city would like to apply to any sort of approval to potentially manage that process if there are delays in connecting to the grid?
I suppose it's a third party that we're relying on, but Greg, do you have anything that you've had to implement in way of advice notes to applicants? It's a standard application process. There may or may not be a problem. So, Greg, are you able to assist in that matter?
Yeah, thank you. No, there's no need for a condition at the development application stage. It's a well-known problem. It's affecting lots of new businesses going into areas all over Wanneroo. The power supply isn't often sufficient at the time they move in. There's a connection provided, but it's generally not sufficient, so that they need to supplement that. And Western Power upgrading the power is taking a very long time. So alternative methods of doing that. Those are basically minor works that are outside the scope of needing a DA.
Greg, just if there is a problem with fumes and so forth, I presume your health department would be able to get involved in that?
That's correct. Yes. So any emissions from a premise that's causing dust or noise and the like, the city can take an active interest in and investigate under the relevant environmental health regulations.
Okay. Well, I suppose Mr. Scarrett can take that on board. Okay.
Can I just make a practical suggestion?
Well, not really. Go ahead then.
Why in this day and age, when we're promoting environmental protection, cannot solar panels in an area where there are no trees, there is no shade, be put onto that to supplement your power?
Okay. Well, it's not a question of debating. You've made your point. So thanks very much. Yes, Jason, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member, and to the responsible authority of by Mr. Bowering. One of the submitters has raised a potential issue associated with another site, which I'm probably not so much looking to drill into, other than really just the potential applicability here. Now, in having reviewed the environmental acoustic assessment, as I understand it, there is no provision for an additional noise source associated with power generation. Now, in relation to compliance, and if there was a need for, obviously the requirement to comply with the environmental protection noise regulations applies regardless, but from a sort of a compliance point of view, if there was a need to to provide a generator on site for power, how would that sort of interface in terms of compliance with the environmental acoustic assessment and the City of Wanneroo's role in that? Would that be addressed through sort of complaints if there were, or would you see there being some other way in which that is considered, that with the additional noise source there still remains compliance with the noise regulations?
Yes, thank you for the question. So yeah, there's two separate processes. So as part of the development application, we're assessing it as is intended to operate. If there's a servicing problem, whether it's, you know, a water connection problem or a power connection problem that requires an alternative method of addressing a deficiency there, that would be an arrangement that they would need. If it involved works, then we would look at it in terms of needing whether or not needed a development approval and or any building permit works, and whether or not it was permanent or temporary works. In this case, we're looking at temporary generators. They would be on site to provide power, same as it would be for a house or any other temporary reason. That might be temporary for 6 months, but that issue would be addressed in terms of the impact of that installation of a power generator would be addressed through the environmental health regulations if it didn't trigger any development approval requirements on its own. So if there was a need for them to build something that triggered a development application, then we would deal with a DA for it. Otherwise, it would be dealt with entirely through the environmental health regulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions of the presenter or Mr. Baring? If not, thank you very much, Nick, for your presentation. Okay, panel members, we now move into the responsible authority report for the application. In order that we can commence our discussion, do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation? Moved Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor Huntley. Thank you. Councillor Smith, do you wish to speak to the item, please?
I'm happy with the report. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Huntley? As the seconder?
Yeah, I'm happy with the report, and I've looked at all the conditions. I think they're pretty thorough as well. So, yeah, happy.
Okay. Any other panel members wish to speak to the item in support or against? Yes, Jackie?
Yeah, I'd be supportive of the item. I can see that it's consistent with the strategic planning for the area. Do have some concerns about the generator issue, but I don't know that it's something that needs to be controlled under this application. I think that there are relevant legislation that will be able to deal with any sort of issues arising from that. But yeah, I can see that the developer and the council have worked together to get an outcome, which is good.
Thank you. Jason, you wish to speak to the item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. Having regard for the responsible authority report and the motion that's been moved, I'm supportive of the motion and therefore the recommendation that's been put to us in the responsible authority report. In terms of the proposed uses, I note the consideration of those and the recommendation that we do have the ability to consider those, albeit a number of those are discretionary, so this can be considered, and then alternatively, in terms of further to that, in terms of the development that is proposed, I through the assessment would agree that the development that is proposed is appropriate, and noting through submissions received through the advertising, but also through deputations today, can appreciate that there is often it can be a degree of concern associated with this, with these uses, particularly in terms of amenity considerations. However, in this case, I am comfortable that the assessment has considered and is supported by appropriate level of investigation, particularly around noise, but there's a condition set that has been presented as part of the recommendation, which has specific considerations around lighting and the management of lighting and lighting spill, but also the implementation of the requirements of the environmental acoustic assessment. And additionally, there was a query raised or a comment raised in relation to the potential additional concern that may arise in relation to power generation as a noise source. And while that has been related to another facility, I note in this case that while power generation could potentially need to be provided by through in a temporary sense through power generation on site, the assessment is based on the ultimate when intended situation where it's serviced by Western Power. However, in the meantime, and comfortable that if there was a need to provide temporary power, on-site power generation, that there is still regulation under the environmental protection noise regulations, and a requirement for the proponent to maintain compliance with those sound power levels at sensitive premises, and not only that there will be opportunities to consider that, but if there were complaints, a requirement to investigate those and demonstrate compliance. So on that basis, I'm comfortable to support the motion as presented and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Jason. I too am supporting the recommendation for approval. The applicants have worked well with the council administration to investigate, assess and overcome a number of the issues that the community are generally concerned about, such as noise emissions, traffic lighting, and they worked through a number of conditions on the approval to ensure compliance with the recommended guidelines for them to be met. The uses are capable of approval, as the report states. Once again, with regard to temporary power supply in this particular instance, if it's required, I have utilised service stations where these are provided, and apart from the smell of diesel, which I don't think is avoidable if they're going to be using diesel generators, the noise is quite low. It tends to just be a muffled motor of some sort. So with that, I'm supporting the application as well. In that case, Councillor Smith, do you wish to close the debate on the item, please?
I'm happy. Thank you. So thanks.
Okay, that being the case, I'll put the item for approval and seek those that wish to vote in favour of this? Okay, that's unanimous and it's carried. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda are Form 2 development applications. There are none. Next item is statutory considerations. There are none. General business. If there being none, I'll close the meeting at 10:08 AM. Thank you very much, presenters, council staff and panel members. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.